The second conditional. What is the second conditional? Well, it's easy in reality. So the second conditional is used for hypothetical scenarios in the present. For example, if I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. This is probably the most common example of the second conditional. And just to go over the structure, if I, so if and subject pronoun, then won, which is the past simple, so if I won the lottery, comma, then we have the subject pronoun again, I, and would. I would travel, base verb, infinitive without to, around the world. And we can also change the order to say, I would travel around the world if I won the lottery. And in this case, we don't tend to use a comma in the middle. So that's a quick overview of the second conditional. Now, I'm going to ask myself 20 different conversation questions using the second conditional, so you can practice with many examples and at the same time get to know me a little bit more as I answer all of these questions. So this is a combination of podcast, speaking practice, conversation, and a little bit of grammar. So sit back, enjoy, and second conditional. Woohoo! Welcome to English with Lewis. Let's go! Number 1. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go? If I could travel anywhere in the world, the first place that I would go to, I think, would be... It's difficult, but I think it would be Brazil right now. So if I could travel anywhere in the world, I would go to Brazil. And the reason for this is that I've been watching some Brazilian TV shows and series, and I've started to enjoy listening to the Brazilian Portuguese accent. And then, of course, it is an enormous country. You have so many different types of landscapes. You have the Amazon rainforest. You have so much coastline. Then you have these big bustling cities like Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, which has Christ the Redeemer and Copacabana Beach. You have people who are very fun, very chatty, very energetic, and yeah, I think I've said enough. If I could travel anywhere in the world, I would travel to Brazil. Number 2, if you were an animal, which one would you be and why? This is a classic question and sometimes a confusing interview question, but I think off the top of my head, if I were an animal, I would be a dog, because dogs are a man's best friend. They are tame and they live with us. They are pets. They are domesticated animals. And the love that a dog has for its owner is very, very special, but it goes both ways. Nowadays, I think people have more dogs than children, and their dogs are a little bit like their children. This morning, I was scrolling up and down on Instagram, and I kept seeing lots of funny dog videos and dog grooming videos, and it's adorable. So I would like to be one of those dogs that are they're like superstars, they're celebrities, and they're constantly being pampered and being given fantastic treatments. So yeah, if I could be any animal, I would be a dog because I'd have a great life. Number 3, if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? So this is the example that I gave at the beginning of the video. I think it's the most common example of a second conditional conversational question. And if I won the money, First, it would depend on how much money I would win. But if I won the money, I think first of all, I would buy a house. So if I won the money, I would buy a house because I'm renting at the moment, and renting is very expensive, and I always move around, and I think right now I'm ready to settle down somewhere, but in order to do that, I need more stability and financial stability at the same time. So I would buy a house in Spain, I think, and maybe I'd buy 2 houses and I'd rent one of them out. Again, it depends how much money I could win. And apart from that, I wouldn't stop teaching, but I would only teach maybe once or twice per week. And the videos, I'd just record them once per week, and then the rest of the time I'd be traveling. And when I'm traveling, I could make more videos, so there's no reason why I would stop English with Lewis if I won the lottery. But first things first, I would buy a house. 100%. Number 4, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why? Well, if I could have dinner with any historical figure, I think I would have dinner with Bob Marley. So he's maybe not the most historical figure in the world, but I've watched a few documentaries and films related to him, his life and his music. And yeah, when I was at university, maybe I was a little bit more of a hippie. And I think he seems like such a wise man, an interesting man. Of course, I could play football with him, maybe smoke something with him, and have a laugh, have a chat about life, and get more of an understanding of who he is and what his personality was like. And if he could play me some songs at the same time, that would be awesome. So yeah, again, I could have chosen so many different people, but let's say if I could have dinner with any historical person, I would have dinner with Bob Marley. Number 5, if you were a superhero, what superpower would you choose? This one I think is fairly easy in my opinion. If I were a superhero, I would choose to be able to teleport. So in the click of a finger, I would suddenly be in Brazil. And then maybe I get bored and I'm like, now I'm in Japan. And then after that, I'd be like, now I'm back home. So I think that the best superpower is to be able to teleport just with the click of a finger, because this allows you to travel and be in so many places almost at the same time. And you don't need to deal with all of the stress and hassle that traveling has. Like flying, it's so boring. Getting the train, they're always late. Buses, you don't have a lot of personal space. So if I could have a superpower, I would choose to teleport. Number 6, if you could live in any time period, which time period would you live in? This one's difficult because I think there are so many different periods and eras that would be really, really interesting. If I went back in time, I would see so many different things that maybe I've read about or I've watched things related to. And the Roman time, the Egyptian time, I imagine everything would be so interesting. It'd be eye-opening. But at the same time, life expectancy was much, much lower. Health and sanitation didn't really exist. Peace on the world didn't exist either. So there were many things that nowadays I think we take for granted that back then they didn't have. So in all honesty, if I could live in any time period, I think I'd just go back to like the 60s or the 70s, and I would basically have the life that my parents had, because It was such a great time of prosperity for many countries. People were able to afford more things, and maybe they weren't able to travel as much as we are able to now. And of course, technology didn't really exist in the same way, but it seems like a really cool time with lots of great concerts, festivals, and much, much more. So if I could live in any time period, I'd start my life in the 60s. Why not? Number 7 is if you could instantly learn any skill, what skill would you learn? There are many things that I would like to learn, of course. I would like to learn how to program, how to play the guitar and other instruments at the same time. But you know, I like languages, I like communicating, I like learning languages, but to be honest, if I didn't need to learn the language and I just knew it like that, then of course it would be an advantage. So if I could learn any skill, the skill would be to be able to learn languages in like a week. 1 week of studying and then instantly you are fluent and you can speak any language. I could go to China in a week and have perfect conversations and do whatever I needed to without having to look words up or ask friends or have a dictionary. So if I could learn any skill, I would learn how to learn languages perfectly. Now, number 8 is if you could change one thing about your country, what would you change? For me, this is simple, and it's something that happened like 8 years ago or something like that, that I wish had never happened. And this could be summed up in one word, and that word is Brexit. So I was already living abroad when Brexit happened. I was in Spain, so maybe I wasn't affected by it as much as other people and younger generations that never really got to go on an Erasmus program. But I remember being gutted when Brexit was voted for by such a small margin, and it has made my life a little bit more complicated in terms of visa and paperwork. So there are many things that I could say that we should change about the United Kingdom. It's definitely not the best country in the world by any means, but I think a lot of our problems would be solved if Brexit had never happened. So if I could change one thing about the UK, I would rejoin the EU and preferably never have left the EU. Number 9. If you found a suitcase full of cash, what would you do? This is a test of your morality and your honesty and how good of a person you are. And I'm not a very good person. So if I found a suitcase full of money without a wallet or any ID or anything like that, just cash, plain straight cash, and first I'd look around, I would look around to make sure nobody was watching me. And then if nobody was watching me, I would take the suitcase and I would run. I would get out of there as quickly as possible and I would take the money. I mean, of course I would. It's a different matter entirely if there is ID there, because then if there is a wallet or an ID card, then I couldn't really take the money, and I'd know that people would always be looking for it. And it might be the same if there's no ID, but for me, I think it's worth the risk. So it's worth taking the money for the benefit that you can gain from this additional money. We haven't said how much money, but I imagine in the hundreds of thousands, and that could be life-changing. So maybe I'm a bad person, but I'd take the money and run. Number 10, we're halfway there, and this question is, if you could be famous for one thing, what would you be famous for? And I'm gonna go back to every child's dream when they're growing up and they're playing football and they're interested in football. So if I could be famous for one thing, I would be famous for being the best footballer in the world. I could be the next Messi, the next Ronaldo. It would be incredible. Of course, you would always be in the spotlight. People would always be writing about you, talking about you, but if they're talking about you for being an incredible footballer, then they'd be praising you all the time. It'd all be good news to a certain point, at least. So if I could be famous for one thing, I would be the best footballer in the world and I'd live my dream. And it sounds amazing. If only I was a good footballer, but unfortunately I was very average. All right, now number 11. If you could swap lives with anyone for a day, who would you choose and why? If I could swap lives with someone for a day, I think I would choose... I'm not going to say the typical footballer answer as I have done in the last question, but recently Taylor Swift has been all over the place, touring. People have been going crazy about the concerts and trying to get in there at all costs. And she's developed such a cult following. Everybody loves her and follows her and trusts what she says. And people go crazy when they're at the concerts. So it would be interesting to see what this is actually like behind the scenes and be able to sing and dance as she does and command the crowd as she does. So yeah, why not? I think if I could swap lives with one person for one day, I would swap lives with Taylor Swift. And I'm not a Swiftie, but hey. Number 12. If you were offered a job abroad in a different country, would you take it? This is quite a generic question. We need to go into more details and specify it, but I would, generally speaking, if I'm offered a job in another country for better conditions, then I guess I'm an adventurer. So I would probably take it. I'm an adventurer. So yeah, I think it's a great idea for anyone to go abroad for a period of time and maybe not live abroad for the rest of your life, but to have this experience really opens your mind and it broadens your horizons. So I would recommend it to anyone and everyone. And right now I can live wherever I want and work wherever I want. And this is great about being a digital nomad. But yeah, if I was offered a job abroad for the first time, then yeah, I would accept it. Number 13. If you could speak any language fluently, which language would you pick? Now, I already speak Spanish, it's good. My French is okay. My Italian is okay. My Portuguese is okay. When I say okay, I mean understanding, not really communicating. But if I could speak any language right now and learn a new one, only choosing one, I think I would choose... Okay, I would choose Chinese. Let's say Chinese. I was between Korean, Chinese, Japanese, but at the end of the day, the population of China is much, much, much bigger, so it would open more doors for me and I could consume more media and understand more things because Chinese, when I say Chinese, I mean Mandarin because it's much more spoken than Cantonese. But yeah, if I could learn a new language and speak it right now, I would choose Chinese Mandarin. Number 14. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would you change? This is difficult. It's always difficult to speak about yourself and to praise yourself or to talk about what you're good at and stuff like this. But if I could change one thing about me, I think I would change the fact that I'm a little bit socially lazy. This is what my girlfriend says anyway, because I'm not really an introvert, but I'm not really an extrovert either. I can speak to people when I want to. I can, of course, have all of these videos, so I'm clearly not too much of an introvert, but I get very lazy about going out and socializing, perhaps because my job's so sociable. But yeah, if I don't have a plan from like a week before, then I don't really like to do anything, and I just like to chill out and relax and sleep and watch series and do my own things. And this isn't necessarily a problem, but sometimes I do think that I should be more sociable. I should go out more. I should live life to the fullest. And it's not really my personality, but I wouldn't mind if that changed. So if I had to change one thing about myself, I would be more sociable with events and going out and doing things. Number 15. If you had the chance to meet an alien, would you take it? So, if I had the chance to meet an alien, would I take it? I think the curiosity would really get to me. So yeah, I think I'd take the risk and I would meet the alien and see what happens and what the alien looks like, how the alien communicates. Maybe the alien is just a plant, who knows? But yeah, I think I would forever regret it if I had the opportunity to meet an alien and I didn't grab it with both hands. So yeah, I would speak to the alien and the UFO, and I think I would do it. What about you? Would you take the opportunity to meet an alien if you had this possibility? Because it would be scary, it would be intimidating, you wouldn't be able to predict what would happen, but it's an alien, wow. Anyone who likes sci-fi, this is their dream. Number 16, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live? So, I mentioned this earlier with buying a house. I think if I could live anywhere in the world, I would live in Spain. Where exactly is difficult to say, but I would probably live between Cadiz and Sevilla. So they're both amazing, cheap places, beautiful places, great weather. Seville is too hot in summer, but then I just go to the coast, to Cadiz. So if I could live anywhere in the world, I would live in Andalusia. Ole! Number 17. If you could go back in time and change one thing, what would you change? This for me is easy. I've mentioned it on these native English conversations that I've been having with other teachers, and if I could go back in time and change one thing, I would start creating YouTube videos much sooner. So, of course, hindsight is a beautiful thing, and if I had known that I would be doing this now, well, I would have started when I was at university and I was studying languages. That would have given me so much time to learn and grow. So yeah, if I could go back in time, I would tell 18-year-old Lewis, listen, start posting YouTube videos. You'll thank me in the future. So yeah, that's what I'd do. Number 18. If you could own any car, which car would you buy? I'm not too bothered about cars, to be honest. I'm not that interested in cars, but I don't have a car at the moment, actually, but I did pass my driving license. So I have a driving license, I passed my test, and if I could own any car, I think I'd have an Aston Martin, maybe, because it was James Bond's car, and I've always liked them. They're British as well, and they're very good looking. So yeah, if I could own any car, I'd own an Aston Martin. Number 19. If you could eradicate one problem in the world, which problem would you eradicate? There are so many problems in the world, so many things that I wish I could change, but I think the biggest problem, to be honest, is a lack of education. Of course, I could say hunger, I could say wars, I could say so many things, but I think it all boils down to education. It all comes down to education. If people were taught differently, and I don't mean maths, science, and all of these things, but I mean like morals and values and peace, essentially. So I think if everybody had this education and were normal people, then we would be able to solve all of the problems that we face nowadays on planet Earth, whether that's violence, global warming, hunger. If we were all educated in a good way, none of these problems would exist. So if I could eradicate one problem, I would eradicate a lack of effective education. Of course, that's me, a teacher, talking. Finally, number 20, if you were given 3 wishes, what would you wish for? My first wish would be to never have to worry about money. And I don't mean necessarily winning the lottery, but just like having a bank account and spending whatever money you want on whatever you want. Maybe I wouldn't live the life of luxury, but I'd never have to think about money or worry about money. Number 2, I think health is actually more important than money, but I would wish that myself, my friends, and my family were all in great health until they're 90 years old. Because I think when you're 90, it's fair enough if you pass away. To be honest, I'd be more than happy if I lived to 85 and that's it. So yeah, I would wish good health for all of my friends and family. And number 3, my third wish would be related to the problems that I mentioned earlier. It would be that I wish there was no more pain and suffering in the world. And this might sound cliche, but I've already used 2 wishes to be very selfish, about being richer and healthier. And the final one, I would want a better world. I would want a world where people are nice to each other and we don't have suffering. And I think everybody would be happier if that were the case. And yeah, it would be a win-win situation. So those would be my 3 wishes. Okay, and there we have it. Quite a long episode, lots of speaking practice. I hope you enjoyed listening to me waffling on. To waffle on is just to speak without any particular plan. While I was teaching you the second conditional in conversation, and now you should know it off by heart. But in the comments, don't forget, if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? And if you have any other second conditional conversation questions for me, don't hesitate to write them away. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next video. And yeah, bye-bye. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and see you next time.